Every 4 years, Americans make a choice that doesn't shape their own future, but one that resonates around the world. It's about selecting their president. But what does it really take to become the president of United States? From primaries and conventions all the way to the final vote, the journey to White House is anything but simple. So today, we are diving into this fascinating process, exploring how one leader is chosen to guide a nation and even influence the world. Let's jump in and take a closer look. The US presidential election is a huge event. It shapes not only the future of United States but captures the attention of people across the globe. Every 4 years, Americans face a huge decision. Who will lead their country for the next 4 years? This leader, the president, isn't just a leader. They are the head of state, the head of government, and yes, commander-in-chief of the armed forces. But the president's influence doesn't stop at national policies. They shape international relations and even influence major decisions on the world stage. It's a big role with massive responsibilities. Now the journey to White House, it's a long route stretching over an entire year, which it all kicks off with primary elections and caucuses, which start in early spring. This primary season is when each political party picks its candidate for presidency. For example, during the 2016 Republican primary, a crowded field of candidates eventually narrowed down to Donald Trump. His platform and style resonated with a significant part of the party's base. So, how do the states actually measure voter support for these candidates? Well, there are two main methods: primaries and caucuses. In primaries, voters cast ballot in secret for their preferred candidates. Some states like New Hampshire even hold open primaries where any registered voter can participate in either party's primary. But caucuses, those work a little differently. Voters gather in local meetings to openly discuss, debate, and then finally vote. In Iowa, for example, these lively discussions can sway undecided voters right before they cast their votes. Both of these methods work to narrow down the field of candidates gradually until each party has a clear nominee. Now, some states have what are known as open primaries, where any registered voter can participate regardless of their party affiliation. Voters can even choose to vote in either Republican or Democratic primary. Other states like Florida have closed primaries. Here, only registered party members can vote, meaning Democrats vote for Democratic candidates only and Republicans can vote for only Republican candidates. So, once the primaries and caucus wrap up, each party holds a national convention that will be held in summer. These conventions are very critical milestones. Delegates from across the country gather and officially nominate their party candidate for their presidency. Delegates cast their votes based on primary and caucus result from their states. But what if no candidate has a clear majority? Well, in that case, multiple rounds of voting may be needed to choose a nominee. A very famous example of this was the 1968 Democratic National Convention. It is remembered for intense debates and protests outside the event. So after the conventions, the real campaign season begins. Candidates from major parties, mainly the Democratic and Republican parties, start the nationwide tours. They hold rallies, town halls, and even participate in televised debates. These debates give public a chance to see the candidates side by side, comparing their platforms, their ideas, and their personalities. In fact, the first televised debate between John F. Kennedy and Richard Nixon in 1960 had a major impact on this public opinion. It was a clear reminder of the power of media in shaping election outcome. Then it all comes down to election day, which is held on first Tuesday after the first Monday in November. That's when the Americans head to the polls. But here's an interesting twist: voters aren't actually voting directly for the president. Instead, they are voting for electors who represent their choice in Electoral College, the body that ultimately elects the president. Each state has a certain number of electors based on its representation in Congress. Most states follow a winner-take-all system. This means that the candidate who wins the popular vote in that state claims all of its electoral votes. This system plays a very crucial role in 2000 election when George W. Bush won the presidency by securing enough electoral votes, even though the popular vote was extremely close. Of course, the system isn't without any criticism. It can lead to situations where a candidate wins the presidency without actually winning the popular vote. This happened not only in 2000 with George W. Bush, but again in 2016 with Donald Trump. Because of this, candidates often focus on key swing states like Florida, Ohio, and Pennsylvania, where outcomes can tip the entire election. In 2020, for example, both Biden and Trump spent a lot of time in Pennsylvania, knowing that it could tip the balance. Then in mid-December, electors meet in their respective states to cast their votes. These votes are then sent to Congress for final counting. In early January, a joint session of Congress counts these votes, with sitting vice president presiding over the session. If a candidate secures at least 270 electoral votes, they are officially declared the winner. Finally, the whole process culminates on Inauguration Day, that will happen on January 20. On this day, the president-elect takes oath of office administered by the Chief Justice of Supreme Court. This historic moment marks the beginning of a new administration and is watched by millions in Washington, D.C. and around the world. In 2009, Barack Obama's inauguration drew record-breaking crowds as he became the first African American president. Now, while the US election process is complex and often debated, it remains the foundation of American democracy. It's a system that aims to balance diverse interests to ensure fair representation. Over the years, there have been calls for change, like moving to a direct popular vote. These calls have gained momentum, especially after recent elections where the popular vote didn't match the electoral college result. But changing the system would require a constitutional amendment, a long and challenging process. For now, despite its complexity and criticism, the US president election endures as a crucial part of democratic system. In the end, US president election isn't just about choosing a leader, it's about reaffirming the democratic values that's the foundation of a country. And as long as those values hold, the journey to White House will continue to inspire, engage, and shape the future of both America as well as the world.